Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday. Today, we're going to be talking about major winter storm Gage and potentially blizzard Gage. And we're going to be talking about that. It's going to be impacting parts of the north central United States with some pretty good precipitation, also stretching into parts of the northeast with some pretty good snowfall and some ice, a lot of ice actually, especially really where I'm highlighting right now. This area and then also this area in the northeast. You could be seeing a lot of ice. Some areas picking up over half an inch of ice, according to some model guidance. And my forecast as far as ice is going to be at the end of the video, as well as my severe weather forecast and a couple of personalized city forecasts for individual cities that are going to be in the path of a winter storm Gage. So we're going to start off here with the National Weather Service. We have a lot of advisories up. We'll go from west to east like we normally do. Winter storm watches over parts of the southern Sierras and the mountains of southern California. We also have some winter weather advisories in these purples, and that's from really southeastern Arizona up through the Rockies, so for New Mexico, and then up through into Kansas, Nebraska, even into Iowa and South Dakota, into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, and then stretching back around in North Dakota, South Dakota, into Wyoming and Colorado as well, all seeing these winter weather advisories, and then kind of engulfed inside of them is some winter storm warnings from New Mexico up through Colorado, Nebraska, into parts of eastern Wyoming, most of South Dakota, parts of the eastern part of North Dakota, and much of Minnesota, which is north, which really anywhere that's north of Minneapolis and north and west of Minneapolis should be seeing some winter storm warnings. And this area I do expect to be under a winter storm warning fairly soon. So yeah, now we're going to be talking about the Northeast as well. We have some winter storm watches in effect for parts of Connecticut and then into western Massachusetts, and we also have a lot of hydrological outlooks outlooks over parts of the Tennessee Valley into Michigan, and then also for Minnesota into Iowa and Wisconsin, and then dotted across here from Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri. And we also have some flood watches in effect for parts of Nebraska and into even parts of central Wisconsin. That's how warm this air is. It's moving all the way up into the northern Great Lakes, where you're still seeing rain. Even potentially parts of the UP of Michigan could get in on some of this rainfall. So it's a very warm base system with a lot of cold air on the backside. Now, I just wanted to talk about quickly what the criteria for a blizzard warning to be issued is. So a blizzard warning, this is straight from the National Weather Service. This is what their criteria is. It says a blizzard warning means that the following conditions are occurring or expected within the next 12 to 18 hours. Now, we are within 12 to 18 hours of the event, and in some areas, some other areas are farther away from this event. So we could potentially see some blizzard warnings up soon. You also need some snow and or blowing snow, reducing visibility to a quarter of a mile or less for 3 hours or longer, and you also need sustained winds of 35 miles per hour or greater, or you need frequent gusts up to or above 35 miles per hour or greater, and also there is no temperature requirement for a blizzard warning. So this basically means that we can expect some blizzard warnings, especially with the model guidance that I'm about to show you. It's very indicative of some blizzard warnings being issued somewhere in the Dakotas, northern Minnesota, or Nebraska, or even into back through Colorado and Nebraska. Now, here is the European model, and this is going in 1 hour increments. So this is a European high resolution model, and it only goes out 90 hours, but luckily this storm will have wrapped up within the next 90 hours. So we'll be able to take this out for the full 90 hours. So starting off, this is earlier this morning, you saw some snow appearing over parts of the Dakotas and moving into northern Minnesota. Now, Couple cities that are going to be on the line really is going to be really around Minneapolis and Sioux Falls, and then also into eastern Nebraska, Iowa. You guys are all going to be on the border between having snow, a lot of snow actually, and a lot of rain. So that's really going to be the big decider where this low pressure tracks. Really, the low pressure is right here at this point. Where this tracks is going to make a really big difference on who sees the most snowfall out of this. So moving into tonight and into early tomorrow morning, you see wraparound snowfall on the northwest and western sides of the system, coming in for anywhere from Kansas up through the Dakotas and into northern Minnesota. Ice appearing over Michigan and Wisconsin, and this is only, of course, according to the European high-res model. And we'll look at one or two other models, but mainly, we're just going to look at this model because there's not too much disagreeing. It's fairly certain where this is going to go. The only disagreeing we have is over the Northeast, because that is, of course, later on in this in the time frame. So there's, of course, going to be a little bit more uncertainty. There's a lot to change. Now, as we continue this, snow starts to wrap back around again. This will be for Sunday morning and now into Sunday afternoon and evening. And we're seeing still some snowfall over these areas into Minnesota, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Kansas even. And really, as it starts to move over the Great Lakes, it's really spiraling, and when it does this, it's kind of losing all its energy. You also see this part back over the Northeast, where you're seeing some more snow, sleet, ice. Some ice could accumulate to over half an inch of ice, or even some models, the European high res is also showing this over an inch of ice. So I'm not forecasting that, which you'll see at the end of the video, but it's definitely a possibility here. Now, as we continue this, you see a lot of wraparound snowfall, and it's really going to dissipate. It's going to be light to moderate at best, but nothing really accumulating too much out of this. But you do have that cold air set in place by the time this system is moving out. So none of this warm air is going to be infiltrating. So most of this will stick after the low pressure has moved on. Right now, currently, this would be for Tuesday morning, a very early morning, and you would see your low pressure situated somewhere around here. And that's going to be basically when you're going to have that cold air rushing in on the backside from Canada. So here is the total snowfall out of this, or here's the total snowfall here. And you see we have a good swath of about over a foot, closer to 6 inches in some areas. And then we also have areas getting closer to a foot and a half of snowfall, and that's even stretching into parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, into northern parts of Massachusetts, southern Maine, all seeing closer to half a foot to maybe even a foot of snowfall, according to the European high-res model. Now, here's the ice accumulation, and in those dark purples, that is an inch or more. So that's what I was talking about over the Northeast, and then also for parts of southwest Minnesota, you also have some areas over an inch of ice, and you also already have some ice storm warnings where you need over a half an inch of ice expected, and that's already over southwest Minnesota. So there's definitely the threat, and the National Weather Service is also catching on to that as well. Now, we want to look at this for blizzard conditions. This is your wind speeds here, and this is your wind gusts at 10 meters. So basically, your wind gusts that you're going to be experiencing at the surface, and we're going to look at this currently. So anywhere that's over this lightest green shade into the yellow and orange and red, that's your blizzard criteria. That's 30 knots or more is basically about 35 miles per hour. It's about 34.6 miles per hour, but generally it'll be enough to meet those blizzard criteria. So anywhere in this light green the lightest shade of green is gonna be under blizzard criteria if you do have falling snow or you already have some snowpack that can drift around and cause some blizzard conditions. So let's match this up with the simulated radar, and you see this would be your simulated radar. You do have, I'll outline here where you have your snowfall, and you have your snowfall somewhere in here, according to this run of the European model. Now, as we add our wind gusts here, you would see that we have snowfall still falling in Colorado, Kansas, and into Nebraska, and even southeasternmost Wyoming, where we do have the potential for some blizzard conditions. Now, as we continue this, these blizzard conditions do stay for about 3 hours in parts of central and western Nebraska, into eastern Colorado and northwestern Kansas, and even into southern South Dakota and southeast Wyoming. And you can see if we do go back to this, you do see some actually intensifying snowfall on the backside. So just wanted to point that out quickly, that and there's many more instances in this storm where you are going to be seeing some snowfall and that wind kind of match up. So I just wanted to show you that we do have the chance for some blizzard conditions, and I'm not just making that up. I actually do believe that we are going to see at least a couple blizzard warnings be put into effect sometime tonight into tomorrow morning. Now, here, I want to show you the Storm Prediction Center and what it's showing you as far as its categorical outlook, because we are going to have some severe weather, believe it or not. And this severe, look at this, thunderstorms reaching as far north as Minneapolis, Wisconsin, and all the way into the Great Lakes. And you don't see that too often unless it's the spring or the summer, or even the fall, the early fall. So it really warm air really shows you how warm this area is that's being pulled up from the south. But here's you have a general thunderstorm risk anywhere in this light green, so that's where you are going to be seeing thunderstorms, or at least some fairly moderate heavy rainfall. Maybe not some thunder, but potentially some heavy rainfall that could be severe in some instances. We have a marginal risk. This is where it's really a severe threat. This light green, don't worry too much about that. But if you're on the marginal or the slight risk, then you should be worrying a bit more. And this marginal risk is for northern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, into eastern Kansas, southern Missouri, into all of Arkansas, westernmost parts of Mississippi and Tennessee, and even Kentucky, a little bit of Kentucky, and northern Louisiana. And then your slight risk in this yellow for northern Texas, into eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, into southwestern parts of Missouri, and into southeastern parts of Kansas. Now, here are your specific threats. You have a 5% tornado risk in this brown, 2% surrounding that in the green. You have a wind threat as well. Sorry about that. It just refreshed. Just got updated. 5% in the brown, and then a 15% in the yellow for your wind. You have a hail threat as well, but it is a smaller hail threat, just because there isn't the right ingredients in the atmosphere. 5% in the brown, so definitely we could see some penny to pea-size hail form, but it's really going to be on the lower end side, and nothing too significant. So here is what the NAM-WRF model is showing as far as its precipitation, and we're going to be looking at this because it is a higher resolution model, and I want to show you this to show you the severe weather and the thunderstorms that could set up. So this is your line of thunderstorms right here, and you're going to see how they progress. So this would be for what's happening a couple hours ago. But as you have that daytime heating, you're going to see some pretty heavy thunderstorms approach. You have that line of thunderstorms, and that indicates a stronger severe weather setup. And that's going to be for later this night into the afternoon, and now this would be overnight. You're seeing that line kind of move through. Now I also want to dissect what is currently happening in the atmosphere. You have this warm front that's kind of setting up, and it's going kind of like this. It's moving all the way through Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, into northern Minnesota, and then back down through South Dakota and Nebraska. And then you have this cold front on the backside where this precipitation ends, basically. Actually, no, that's not the cold front. Cold front's something like this, and then you have your dry line right here, which is where the precipitation is ending. So, kind of that's your setup right there, and then your low pressure would be somewhere right around here where all those fronts meet. Now, Now that we have the breakdown of that, now we're going to continue this. You see, the thunderstorms continue to roll through, but they kind of die out until tomorrow, where they get more daytime heating and they get more energy, but it is weaker overall as we continue. Now, here is your significant tornado parameter, and usually you want above a 1, which is the blue. Once it gets into the blue, that's when you have a shot of seeing some tornadoes, and you see we have a little bit of that to the east of Dallas, but not too much of a threat there. So I wouldn't be expecting too many tornadoes. Maybe a couple EF0s or EF1 tornadoes, but shouldn't cause too much damage anyway if we do see a pop-up tornado. Going to be short-lived most likely and not going to cause too much damage. And as we see, these values are very low, so not a lot of instability in atmosphere for some severe weather. Here is your CAPE, your convective available potential energy, and you see we usually want above 1,000, which is when you get into the light blue, around 750 to 1,000 or more. And you see we have a little bit of that around Louisiana, so potentially a little bit of severe weather there, but that's very isolated. And you see generally we have lower CAPE values, so not too much in the way of severe weather with this event. Now I wanted to show you my personal forecast. And so here's this map. I showed you this yesterday, but you can go see what all these colors mean in my video that I posted yesterday. This is showing you your rainfall and snowfall and your storm track all overlaid onto one. You can see this is my storm track going straight from, this was made just about 2 days ago, and so the low pressure was situated off of Southern California, but now has moved. Now it's somewhere around Nebraska into South Dakota. So now that we got that out of the way, here is my ice forecast. So under a tenth of an inch of ice could be expected over anywhere from Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, northeastward, and then also into the northeast and mainly into New England. You're going to be seeing under a tenth of an inch of ice expected. A tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of ice expected for the northern UP of Michigan into Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and then another area for upstate New York into Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and into Maine. Now our final layer are 0.25 to 0.5 inches or a quarter of an inch to half an inch of ice over parts of Nebraska, even into South Dakota, a little bit of Iowa as well, and a little bit of Kansas, and then another area for parts of upstate New York into Vermont, New Hampshire, and a little bit of Massachusetts as well. And also want to point this out, this event is going to be going through the 27th through the 1st of January. Now, here's my categorical outlook, and this is not what the National Weather Service is showing. This is just my forecast, so I'm not affiliated with the National Weather Service or anything. This is my personal forecast, just kind of using their kind of system here. So you're going to have a general thunderstorm risk anywhere highlighted in this light green, which is really for the central United States. Now we have a marginal risk over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri into southern Illinois, and then we have a slight risk into northern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, and western Arkansas. Now, I did want to do a couple of individual city forecasts. We have two of these. We have Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and then also Minneapolis, in Minnesota. So we have this is your hourly forecast going in 3-hour increments. You have some rain showers that are going to be developing later this afternoon and continuing all through the 12 a.m. basically until midnight. And this is for Central Time, so I did adjust this for your time. And then as we get somewhere between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m., you're going to have this transition from heavy rain to heavy snow, and this is when you could be potentially looking at your blizzard conditions over parts of around 3 a.m. and then it's going to dissipate again as we get into 6 a.m. early and your early morning hours, and then going to re-intensify again over the daytime hours. And then your commute home should actually be clear for the most part, some on and off snow showers as you get around 6 p.m. And your highs 36 on Saturday or today, and your low 33. High for tomorrow 34, and the low of 24. And you're currently under a winter weather advisory as of the time that I'm recording this. Now, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, you're going to be seeing some ice/sleet mixing in currently, really from right now all the way until 3 p.m. And then somewhere between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. you're going to switch from light ice/sleet into some light rain, into rain, and then back to cloudy conditions, and then back into rain again. You're also under a winter weather advisory. Just want to point that out. Currently, just like Sioux Falls, both these cities are going to be on the edge of this precipitation. You're going to have a high of 35 and a low of 29 today, and a high of 44 and a low of 34 tomorrow. Cloudy conditions are going to persist through the daytime hours until you get until 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and potentially later you're going to be seeing some pretty active weather. Now, that is going to wrap up the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when I upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli's Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.